Hello, one and all, and welcome to another video on the Baggers Chat YouTube channel. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, we are joined by Ethan Duffy, and today we have a new update. We are actually enjoying these videos over the trade period because we're able to jump on for some more content, Duffy boy. And of course, today, as you can see by the title, we're speaking about OLLIE FLORENT from the Sydney Football Club about a potential interest from Carlton to lure Florent into the club for 2026. But before we get into any details, Duffy boy, I want to throw straight to you. How are you? Firstly, we did a video a few days ago, so I don't think much has changed. Maybe something from our Nana Goon, Duffy boy, dare I say it. But how are you to start off with? And your first thoughts about this? Because we've been speaking about this probably off air a few times throughout probably the past few months. And now that it's kind of come official from Cal Toomey that we might be interested, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's definitely a name that's been floated, I think, in just around the whole Carlton landscape, probably since during the season. I remember doing a post during the season on our socials about Ollie and maybe our interest in him. And, you know, there's been stupid links that for some reason he'll be the player involved in the Curnow trade and all that. That was early days, but when the Curnow stuff was kind of first being talked about. But yeah, it's an interesting one. For me, I think both of our views will be similar to this. I think it's a player that we do need. Yeah. Not saying he's a superstar by any stretch. He's nowhere near that. But I did read a comment. I forgot the name of the comment on our last video, and he was loving that we are having an approach this offseason to players that we need. And they're role players. Like, they're not just straight up, let's just throw the most money at the biggest free agent and hope he changes everything. You know, like we've done in the past. I'd say in the past we've done that with Williams. I'd say Sard as well. Because they're both players who are, you know, pretty, you know, a lot of teams are interested in them. And this year we're kind of opting to go with let's fill in the needs, because I think you said in the last video, we have the A graders, we have the players there. So yeah, really pleased that we're interested in him. I think the big question for me with this coming out, what does this do for a Blake Acres? Well, you know, like there was a lot of talk with him maybe heading back home to WA. I don't think that stuff's got any stronger and hasn't been talked about since. But if you do end up bringing Florent in, Pato, what does that mean for Acres? Because I think Florent's probably a better ball user. I think Blake's a good winger because he's a good, you know, end-to-end winger, and we touch on it all year, don't we, with how he positions himself. But I think his ball use just hurts us a little bit. And if you have a guy like Florent who has played finals footy, he's been a big part, in my opinion. I think he's been a big part of their finals campaigns and pushing for grand finals. Like, he's been amongst it. So, yeah, just a question to you, Pato. What does that mean for a guy like Acres? Or what does that mean for a guy like, I don't know, it might be Elijah Hollands. Maybe we opt to play Florent as a high half forward. What does that mean for those two?
Yeah, well, now we've got Campbell Chesser and potentially Ollie Florent coming in. Like, now those two guys can probably replace Acres. And I know that Elijah Hollands wasn't playing a lot of senior football this year, but you've got a guy like Campbell Chesser who can come in and fill that void. I think that's probably saying that Carlton are really focusing on in the offseason with what I've noticed is, and it's a good thing that you mentioned about that comment as well, because I completely agree with that, is we're really looking after the depth and the voids that we need to fill that we've actually realized this year that we are missing. So, like, we've realized that we're missing the ball use. We've realized that we've missed the speed off halfback, or even on the wing, or just lowering of the eyes. All these guys that we're getting right now are actually like that. And Buku Kamas as well. His ball use is actually underrated.
Yes.
I think a lot of people realize that when he flies at the footy, that's very flamboyant and everyone loves that. But it's also like his ball use is actually very good. So he can almost play as a high half forward. But even if we transition him to play as a defender, he can be one of those guys that we kind of utilize with Mitch McGovern getting a lot of the footy. And I think Buku Kamas can kind of cover that Mitch McGovern void if he does transition out of the club at the end of the year. But back onto Ollie, I think it's a extremely good get, because obviously he's kind of fell out of favour with the Swans, and he's probably realised that he probably needs to work extremely hard over the offseason. And this doesn't mean that he's definitely leaving the club. Like I will say again, he's contracted until 2029 and he signed that contract midway through last year. So heading into this year and probably up until probably round 8, he was a very important sort of player, a part of this team. And now that he's not really part of that, he might need to work a little bit harder. I don't know what his mindset is. It doesn't mean that OLLIE FLORENT and his management have shown interest in Carlton.
No.
It's just have shown interest in OLLIE FLORENT to see what's kind of out there. So that's why I thought we would update this, because I think it's a very good sort of thing to talk about, because he is one of those players that we need to feel that for. And I think his ball use and he's actually quick as well. And I think that the thing about Ollie is he can play in the back line and he can also play on the wing. But also the thing that you said about Akers, he's good, but I think the only thing that he really has offering that is kind of a strength for him is his size.
Yeah,
so
yes,
I don't think we necessarily need that nowadays. No. Like if we transition Sam Walsh to the wing, I just feel like we have too many tall players. We've got the Cripps, we've got the Hewitts, we've got the guys up forward who can play tall. We just don't need a wing. I mean, I'm not saying that Akers is shit. I wouldn't mind if he's playing every single game next year for the Carlton, like in the Carlton jumper. But I wouldn't mind either way. But if we are interested in a guy in OLLIE FLORENT, maybe this is a guy that comes in and maybe Blake Akers is told to look elsewhere. But before I transition back to you, I know that there isn't a lot of news about this, but there are rumors that with Blake Akers and his exit meeting, there is a bit of conversation that potentially he was told to look elsewhere and explore his opportunities, like Elijah Hollins and like Jackson Binns and like a lot of the guys that have been kind of told to explore their options. We don't know if that's 100% true. That's why we didn't really want to say anything about it. But there are rumors. So now that rumor probably came out about a week and a half ago, and now that this is now coming into fruition as well with potentially Chester as well coming into the club, this is quite interesting because now Blake Akers might be looking to exit the club at the end of the year. But what, like, your thoughts on Ollie? Like, I want to hear where you think he probably will play his best football if he was to transition to Carlton in 2026. But also with hearing about Akers and if potentially he has been told to explore his options, maybe this is the reason why.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, I agree. I wouldn't be against Blake being there next year, but there's always moving parts in the trade period, and sometimes it happens late. This could happen late, and Carlton go, okay, done. Both a personal agreement with Florent, and the trade gets done, and then Akers goes, well, his manager goes, well, maybe we need to contact West Coast or something like that, or it doesn't have to be Perth, could be just another Victorian team. I don't know, but it is. It's an interesting watch. I think I wouldn't say Campbell Chester is a lock to play round one. I think he has the ability to be a really good player. I'm not saying if he plays round one, I'm not against that either. But when I look at Florent, and obviously we haven't got him yet, it would be much easier to talk about the team. But if he was to come to Carlton, I'd be looking at him and Cotters on the wings. I think Akers shouldn't be. I think he should be fringe based on how he played this year, unless his form changed and he has had that back issue at the start. He had the surgery at the start of this year. I think it was in Jan or December. And backs, they're one of those things. He kind of lost his, didn't he? He just looked like he lost his way a little bit. He didn't have speed, but he just looked like even slower and a bit more sluggish and it's never been strength. But even when he was playing well in 23, I felt like his ball use at times was actually not too bad. It'll be a very, very interesting watch. But in terms of the whole, reaction to this Florent interest, I don't, I'd love to hear people's thoughts, and I respect everyone's opinion, of course. I'm just a little bit confused on why people are against it. I'm not sure if I'm not saying anything, I could be saying it completely wrong, but I just think, based on that guy's comment from yesterday, and I think both of our mindsets, we need guys filling in roles. We need better ball users. We need a little bit of pace, and I think he fits perfectly into that. And obviously he's contracted for 2029, but if he ends up requesting a trade, I know he's contracted and blah, 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 but he's not going to cost that much. It'd be a second rounder, I'd say, for OLLIE FLORENT. Like you said, he's not He's been a little bit in and out of the side this year. He might want to head home because I'd imagine when he signed the contract in 24, he was probably thinking, okay, we've got Horse as their coach. We're about to make the grand final.
Massive.
And 2025, they weren't great. And they got a different coach, and that coach wasn't picking him at certain points. So people always talk about that. I think it's a totally different situation to Charlie. Charlie signed the contract when we were flying. And we had the same coach, and we've still got the same coach. And just because, we had a bit of a down year, he wants to leave. So, it's going to be very, very interesting, Pato. And like Toomey said, I do like it, and it gives me more confidence that we might be able to get a deal done, that it doesn't include the Curnow deal.
Yeah.
Does not matter. I think they'll find, if both parties want to do this, I think they'll find a way, Pato.
Yeah, it's actually a good thing that you mentioned that about Curnow with our trade, because now we'll transition to that. And obviously we know that if Ollie Florent was to find his way to Carlton, he won't be involved in the Charlie Curnow trade. So it will need to be a separate trade. I mean, that's what we kind of expect to happen.
The only way that it would happen is if it was just like Owies and they just go, okay, just pop that on top.
Yeah.
But I just feel like Carlton would want to get Florent over the line before that gets done, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, even if it is Ollie Florent and potentially maybe 2 first-rounders or maybe 3 first-rounders and then Charlie Curnow and maybe a second-rounder, I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't really thought much about this. I personally think there's no way that Ollie Florent should be a part of the Curnow trade.
No.
But it's quite interesting that you just said then about potentially if this trade was to get done, it probably would be a second-rounder. Is that a trade that you're probably happy to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I think... I think 34 might be used for Chesser. I just think because of his age and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think they'll find a way. If they're that interested, like we're both talking about it here, they might not want to in the end. No. So that's the conversation we're having at the moment. But, it's a good sign that, Cal Toomey, who's, the trade and draft guru, is saying this. So he's usually on the ball with this kind of stuff early as well, when teams have early interest. But yeah, I'd say a second rounder. I don't think he's a first rounder. I know we're going to get compo end of first round for Silvani. It won't be a compo like TDK's. It almost was. The Saints almost helped us out with the contract there, Pato. But I think that'll be end of first round. Maybe that's used, or maybe that's used for Chesser, or they split that. Or I know we're trying to get rid of our current pick for the TDK compo that might be used to get a future in. I was hearing this morning. So, obviously the whole Cody Walker stuff and how that point system works, which is, it's going to be not tough to get him. We'll end up getting him, but you need 2 picks that are equivalent to whatever pick he's picked at. So there's a lot of maths and a lot of points in that kind of situation that I don't think we can all get our heads around. I think Nick Austin will have to get his head around it. I think he would definitely be up there on the priority list, getting a superstar player in who would be a top 5 pick this year, and he's underage, Pato, which is another conversation of itself, how good he is. I'm sure we can touch on that in the future.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we there's been a few things happening in the past since the last video, and we only did a video I think maybe two or 3 days ago. But so it is a little bit harder to get Walker next year, but it's not as hard as it probably was reported to be, which is a good thing. Yeah. So I think that's probably a promising thing. It looks very likely that Cody Walker will be at the club in 2027, but we were quite nervous about that, weren't we? Because it was looking like the ruling was probably going to go not really in our favor, but then thankfully they changed it a little bit, but it's not as hard as what it would be.
Yeah. So I think we'll have to get 2 first rounders next year for him. So it's still stiff when you think about it, because you look at, I'm not trying to be salty here, but you look at Brisbane and you look at the Dogs, and they've got all these superstar players for nothing. And then finally, when we get one, it's we have to get 2 first. I think it'll affect our ability, maybe in a way, to get some players in the door, so some higher graded players. But that's just what it is. Like you're getting a high grade draftee, and I know it's no guarantee he's going to be a superstar, but I would say it's almost a guarantee that he's going to be a superstar. Like he's in the team of the year for the TAC Cup, and he's underage. But we're talking about here, I think we've got a freak, an absolute freak who wants to come to Carlton. He's obviously, his dad's a fucking legend of the club and he loves the club. So that'll be interesting to see how they split that. I think we will end up, I know this is kind of off topic of Florent, but I think we'll end up using that TDK compo and trading it for a future first to try and get that future first locked in. Yeah. And then try and get a second one for next. You end up getting one next year, wherever we finish on the ladder.
Yeah, and like that's one thing as well about Cody Walker and next year as well. So, like that's probably something that I reckon Carlton probably have the right to kind of ask the question about how past few years Brisbane, who pretty much have set up their premiership success with the Ashcroft brothers and Fletcher, and I think they've got another one coming through as well. I don't know exactly who it is. I think it's this year or the year after. They've got a few coming in. Collingwood as well. They've got probably their best player and one of the best players in the competition, Nick Dacos, and also a very handy player in Josh Dacos as well. Like Darcy Moore as well is another one. Like there's a few guys there now that they've kind of evolved their list. Like trying to get these players in to really evolve their list, and that's exactly what's happened. So I think Carlton is well within their right to say, yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
but it's either we get something in return, or maybe they have to pay for something. Because like at the end of the day, this is our first real father-son since probably Jack Silvani, but I don't even know if he was really that first like father-son, like actual father-son player who can really tear up the game like Cody Walker probably can and probably would in 2027.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is Harry Dean's a top 6 pick. Yeah. So we're lucky that it wasn't another year, they weren't coming in the same year, because that would have been a very interesting. That would have made it 10 times harder to get both of them through the door. But yeah, obviously he's a pick 6. Well, I'm not saying he is pick 6, but he's scouted. He'd be definitely top 8, I think, in the draft. And he's another one where you go, gee, you get him through the door. Like Carlton, that's why Carlton want an A-grader for Curnow.
100%.
Because we know, look, we've already got 2 kids locked in who are going to be guns. Like we've got Harry Dean who's going to be a gun. I wouldn't even. He could play round 1 next year. The things I've seen, like he could play round 1 next year, Pato, which is crazy to say, but he could. And then we've got Cody Walker, so they'll be thinking, we don't need a high pick. We don't need high picks. We've got these high picks coming in anyway through the father-son. We need A-grade players because we're losing Curnow, Silvani, and TDK. We need that. We need some sort of quality coming back at a and who have impact and can impact for next year and win us games.
Yeah, no, spot on. But probably last few thoughts about Ollie Florent as well. With how this can kind of shape out if a trade was to get done. So I think we probably would expect maybe a second rounder. But so Buku as well is another player that we might need to throw in a second rounder for as well. So you would expect probably Buku to be either the 34th pick or the 44th pick as well, because we have both of them in the draft. So I would assume probably Chesser gets the 44, Karmas gets the 34, and maybe Ollie Florent, I think he's probably worth a little bit more than that. But also, Carlton might be well within their right and say, well, he hasn't played senior footy all year. Like, I mean, he's played a bit of senior footy. But since he made his return, like he's been playing as sub as well. So it's not like he's been locked into this team. So I know that he's signed until 2029, but as Ross Lyons said the other day on the Dan Does Footy video episode, saying that contracts don't really mean as much as what they did back in the 1980s, 1990s. So that to me kind of shows it's like, I mean, he's signed until 2029, but I don't think that really matters. It's down to where the player is actually at with his standard of footy right here, right now. And if he's playing every single senior game and he's one of the best teams on the list, okay, sure, you probably would have to sign up for maybe 2 first rounders. But if it's Ollie Florent, who hasn't been playing a lot of senior football, has been found out of favour at a pretty good side in Sydney, maybe this is when you need to explore your options. And I mean, as you said at the start, we don't know what Ollie or his management are thinking. He might be very much set in Sydney and he might be happy to stay in Sydney and work for his spot for 2026. But also, as you said, Carl Toomey is very, very good at his job, and the rumours did start to come around June or July this year. So it's been a thing that's kind of been looming for a few years now. And now that Carl Toomey's actually come out and said that Carlton have now shown interest, he wouldn't have said that if there was no sort of conversation from Ollie Florent and his management team. So Kind of last sort of thoughts, Daffy Boy, on Ollie Florent ends. I mean, probably the percentage right now in your head of this trade getting done and what it kind of looks like in your head.
Yeah, like you just said before, how the chat kind of started months prior to where we are right now. So I feel like when that happens, I feel like it ends up getting done. Yep. So I don't want to be overconfident. I think we wait a few weeks until I'm really confident that it gets done. And like you said, we want to see his point of view. And I just feel like you want to come because I think they'll guarantee. I think he gets a game easy. For us, I think we slot him in very, very nicely. We don't have Fantasia playing. Elijah Hollands probably might be on the move with West Coast looking at him and Richmond looking at him. So, that just opens the door. That just opens the door and you go, you're playing. So I think he'd get into our team this year, to be honest, even in years past. I just think he's a solid. He can play half back as well if you really want. I know we don't need probably any more half backs. We've got halfbacks coming out of our ass, Pato, at the moment. But my percentage of confidence for him coming, I'll say 50. I'll say 50. It's a bit, maybe 60. Maybe 60. I'll go 60.
In favour of him coming?
In favour of him coming.
Okay.
Yeah. I just think there's been a lot of, he's exactly what we need in terms of a ball user and speedy. And like you said, the name's been floated around. Now it's been again. You text me the other day going, what's going on with Florent? And then 2 days later, Toomey returns serve, Pato, and he says that. And it was just a little bit like, okay, that's giving me a little bit of confidence that he will be coming to Carlton. So, 60, 70% for me. What about you?
Yeah, I'm around the same, if not probably more.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what it is. And I know it's a really bad thing to kind of say because it's happened a lot the past few years in the AFL, but it's usually when players get out of favour and they know that they are worthy at senior level and they're just simply not getting the kind of the positions that he wants to play in. And he's playing in a good side, but he probably sees that Sydney probably might be in for a bit of a reset stage. I'm not saying a rebuild at all, but they might be speaking to Ollie and saying, look, if you can find a trade, probably do it if I was you. But I'm probably more 75. But who knows, Daffy Boy? Carl Toomey might have been tuning into Bags Chat a few days ago about the Buku Karmas trade, mate. And he might have said, let me just contact Pato or Daff about what he thinks about Ollie Florent. So who knows? He might have had the balls to put it on Gettable. And
we might have to get him on.
Carl Toomey?
That'd be a good get. That'd be a good get. Just talk about Carlton. Maybe that might be in the works, Pato.
Yep, spot on, Daffy Boy. But so I think we're both very, very much excited for Ollie Florent and what he can provide for 2026 if he was to find his way to the club. But before we wrap up this quick video, Daffy Boy, is there anything else you would like to touch on?
No, I think we've covered it pretty well. Some other moving pieces as well. But like we said, he's not a superstar, but we need a role player like that. And we just need to freshen up a bit, in my opinion, just to freshen up the list just a little bit.
Yeah, spot on. But to every single blue bagger out there and even AFL supporter who is kind of interested in the trade period, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because we will definitely try and keep on top of a lot of trade news coming through. Obviously within Carlton, if you want to tune into any other AFL news, probably listening to Gettable where you would find Riley Beveridge and Carl Toomey. But if you want to hear some Carlton news, trade news, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, but also check around our socials as well because we're well and truly active on those platforms as well. But to you, Daffy Boy, and to every single blue bagger out there.
The bag is...